product of the west side of Chicago. Most people would call it a economically disadvantaged neighborhood. I just call it a tough neighborhood. Product of a single-parent home. My mom raised me and my brother with the assistance of my grandparents. Never met my father till I was 9 years old. And I met him for about 20 minutes. He was released from Joliet prison. He stopped by the house. I think he touched me once for the first time, and I never saw him again. I think for me, both my brother and my sister, they were 2 years. My brother was older. My sister was 14 years younger. Both no longer here. I'm the sole surviving member of the family I was born into. Grandmother, granddad, mom. I understand my father died in '77. And my brother and sister are no longer around. So it's just me. And I think the only reason I'm here is because I was lucky. And I had this instructor in junior ROTC in Chicago that saw something in me that I didn't see, and he figured out how to push my buttons to challenge me to do something different. I didn't know he was doing it, but he knew he was doing it. And it led me to where I am today. So not your typical Army officer background at all. Very different. Not ashamed of it. Not proud of it. You know, life is dealt to us all the way it is, and in that I see some opportunities for me to tell other people like me about how you can get to where you want to get, and it's probably a blessing. I just don't know the meaning of it all right now. I went on a dare. The senior retired warrant officer, Donald M. Lesh, was my high school junior ROTC instructor. And one day I remember him saying to me, hey, you know, you're doing a pretty good job. You're the type of kid that we think ought to try to go to West Point. And I said to him something like, look, you know, I'm from the west side of Chicago. Guys from my block don't go to places like that. West Point's for punks. And this guy said to me, he said, okay, if you don't think you can make it, then you probably shouldn't apply. And it kind of, you know, I was young and kind of cocky and trying to be tough, and I thought, no, I didn't say that. So I applied. He knew what he was doing. He trapped me into doing that, and I did it, and the rest is history. Why did I make it? I didn't have the guts to quit. I saw several of my classmates every day leaving, just deciding this place is too much for me, and they'd leave, and I couldn't go back on the streets of the west side of Chicago and tell my buddies that this place was too tough. I just couldn't do it. For me, if I had to rank, order the aspects of the academy or school that was hard or difficult, I would say for me, academically, it was easy for me to qualify to get into West Point. It was easy because, you know, growing up, my brother, he kind of hanging out with his boys. I kind of wanted to be like him. And sometimes he would just sort of harass me and slap me upside the head and say, go home and read a book. And a lot of times I'd get mad and I'd go home and read a book. So by the time it came for me to go to high school in Chicago, the public school system's not that bad. There were two sort of magnet schools in Chicago. They were called technical high schools. At the time you had Lane Technical High School and Lindblom Technical High School. One was on the north side, one was on the south side. Depending where you live relative to Roosevelt Road, you could apply to go to one of those public schools that were magnet technical college prep high schools. So I applied to go to Lane Tech, got accepted. It was a wonderful education. Math, science, vocational, stuff like shop. Took 2 years of Latin because I thought I wanted to be a doctor. But by the time I was a high school sophomore, I knew Fortran, Watt 5, COBOL, and Snowball computer languages. This was an amazing school. I took AP biology test after, just as I was about to graduate. And I had a Dr. Wanzong as my advanced placement biology high school teacher. And I was able to score 4 very easily on that test because of the quality of the teachers at Lane Tech. As another indicator, when I was at West Point, the whole 4 years I was there were at least 2 cadets in every class that came out of my high school. In my class, there were 3 of us. 2 guys came out of prep school from my high school. They were a year behind me, so they showed up 1 year later than I did. But I was well prepared academically, and that was what defined me. I got positive strokes from teachers awarding me and telling me that I was doing a good job. I never heard the question, hey, have you done your homework? My mother never asked me that. It's just something I did because it made me contribute in my own way. Many people of color who go to a place like West Point or even my high school. In my high school, there were 5,400 students. When I went there, they were 5,400 male students. My senior year, that high school became co-ed, and in that group of 5,400 students, there were probably maybe 80 minorities: Black, Hispanic, Asian, Native American. So in those 4 years, I guess I adapted to being in an environment where most people didn't look like me. So when I went to West Point, I didn't have to make that big of an adjustment. But we had a close-knit group of Black cadets at West Point that hang out, and on the 29th of March, I got 8 of my classmates, all Black. They're converging on DC. One guy's coming from out of town, so we're going to all get together at Ruby Tuesdays in Crystal City. We'll have dinner, we'll talk, we'll fellowship. So we sustain ourselves by kind of giving each other hope in either the cadet gospel choir, contemporary affairs seminar, athletic teams, things of that nature. So yeah, that was a little hard. And was there some discrimination? I don't think you ever have people that actively do that in an environment where it is not legal to do so. But I do believe that there were those that maybe looked at me because of a preconceived notion they had about me, and I couldn't change their preconceived notion, but what I could do is give them an opportunity to see how limited their thinking was. I'll give an example. I had a roommate at West Point, and at West Point, if you have one roommate, you exchange duties of being something called a room orderly. And so on your name tag on your door, you would put this little marker that said who the room orderly was. So when they came through to inspect, if it was a common area, they'd know who to give those demerits to. And so you switch duties. And so when you're the room orderly, okay, you would make sure the sink was clean, make sure the floor was swept, etc. I had a roommate who had been taught that where he came from and based upon his family and the wealth they had, that they did not clean up behind people like me. And so this kid, for a while, you know, he'd want to wash half the sink. He'd want to sweep half the floor. It was pretty amazing. He turned around. But I didn't try to make him, I just couldn't figure out why he was doing that. And one day I just asked him, why do you do that? He said, because, you know, where I come from, you work for me. We don't clean up behind you people. It was a shock. So, yeah, there's always some degree of discrimination, whether it's because of your color or because of your level of fitness or because of the way you wear your hair or whether you got rings in your nose or ears or not. I mean, people are just kind of people, and they have preconceived notions based upon what only one of their sensors pick up. Okay, 2. But until you talk to someone and listen to how they express themselves or how they think or why they think the way they do, you're missing something. So even in a great organization like the United States Army, where we believe the value of the Army comes from its people, and we want everyone to have the best opportunity, even in a great organization like that, you got to remember, our Army is made up of people. And people come with their biases, they come with their thoughts, and over time they change. They see it differently, but sometimes they don't. Awards, military awards for me throughout my entire career has not really been so much about what I did, but it was really about what the people did that I had the opportunity to lead. And so this Bronze Star Award was, and the Distinguished Service Medal were indeed awards given to me for service, performance in a combat theater. At the time, my mission was, as the commander of the Gulf Region Division, we were responsible for the construction management of the rebuilding of Iraq. Simultaneously, I was dual-hatted as a deputy director for this office that the President wanted set up called the Program Management Office to oversee the spending of the $18.4 billion that we were using to help the people of Iraq rebuild their country. Huge mission, huge responsibility, indeed a brand new effort, and someone saw that the level of performance was at such a level that I should be recommended for this award. And because of the work of all the people below me that really did the work, I just happened to be the leader. So if it went well, I got awarded. If it didn't go well, I'd be awarded accordingly too. That's why I got those awards, and I'm very grateful for those awards. And it was an important award to me because it was a recognition by a group of folks, peers, people like me in the engineering field that recognized my contributions, and it included all kinds of things I had done as a commanding general of the Pacific Ocean Division in Honolulu, Hawaii. So that was important. And then equal to that, and I say second because I don't want to make it the third, equally important to me was I went to one of my master's degrees from Georgia Tech. And so I spent 2 years at Georgia Tech getting a master's degree prior to being assigned to West Point to teach mathematics. And so Georgia Tech recently named me a distinguished alumni of the School of Industrial and Systems Engineering. So they didn't have to do that. I don't know really how they figured that out, but to be named amongst a group of, I went to a ceremony, there's a bunch of giants that they kind of give this honor to. I'm not an undergraduate of Georgia Tech, so for them to do that was pretty extraordinary. And so I'm pretty proud of those major things in my life, but I feel like there's no greater satisfaction than to have people that work for you to move on, to succeed, and I see that every day. There's a lieutenant colonel commanding a battalion that belongs to the Corps. His name is Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Backus. I knew Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Backus when he was Captain Andrew Backus, and I was a lieutenant colonel, and he was working for me. So to see that happen is important. Yesterday, I'm talking on the phone to a Major Garrett Heath, who's in Germany, and he's the executive officer for the transformation outfit for 1st Armored Division. And now Garrett Heath is a field artillery officer. So Garrett Heath never worked for me, but I taught Garrett Heath when he was a freshman or a plebe at West Point, and we've stayed in touch since 1985. So it's been 21 years, and I know his daughters, I know his wife. We've never been stationed at the same location, but we have stayed in touch. So to watch these young people grow from being cadets with bad haircuts that can barely stay awake in class to be successful Army officers, in the case of Captain Backus, commanding soldiers, you just can't, it just doesn't get any better than that. It just doesn't. And I say, if you have no successor, then you can have no success. You look at the word, it just can't happen. So if I'm doing this for me, or if people are doing it for them, but they're not reaching down to pull somebody else up, then, what's the world going to be like tomorrow? And so that's why I spend a lot of time with organizations that seek to mentor, develop the bench so that others like me can have the same opportunities or better that I had. And in many cases, I'll get a lot of young black folks that aspire to want to meet me and spend time around me because I relate to them. I kind of came from the same little box they came out of. And when they hear the story the first time, and they kind of hook on to the fact, I was a single parent, west side of Chicago, tough neighborhood, been shot at, stabbed at a couple times, been robbed a couple times as a kid. So that's how I learned how to run. I mean, I still got pretty good running skills. And if I didn't go through that, I'd be slow, probably fat and out of shape too. So it's all about what you give back. And when I leave this earth, all I want people to say is I miss talking to that guy because he always helped me see and understand what it is I ought to do next, because I refuse to tell people what they ought to do next. I think most people can figure that out.